Welcome to official Axanar Podcast number 70. I'm your host, Keith M. Sedor. In here with me on the bridge of the Starship Ares, Captain Kelvar Garth, you know him better as Alec Peters. How are you, Alec?
Great. I'm doing great, Keith. It's good to see you again.
All right. So, speaking of being on the bridge, it looks like you're in a new office there.
Yes, we moved, and we moved into another house, and this, ironically, the same floor plan as our old house. It's the same. But we moved, and my office had previously been in what was supposed to be the dining room, which allowed me to be downstairs with the dogs and the kitchen, whatever. This time we were like, I really want an office. So this was formerly the guest bedroom in the old house, and I chose it to be my office. So I got to actually set up my bookcases, which I had not done in the old house. Everything's been in storage.
That's a project in and of itself. I've had things in storage and had to move them from one place to another for whatever logistical reasons, whether one storage place was cheaper or it was just time to move things closer. That's a lot of work. I don't envy that undertaking for you.
It was a lot of work. We moved last week, and it was 3 days. It was 2 days of just getting boxes out of storage and setting them up here, and then got this Dana Wagner, who of course manages the bridge over at Ares Studios. He helped me bring up the shelving units here, which 3 of them were downstairs in the garage. So I put those up, and then start unboxing and putting things. And that is my comic book case. Has my comic book collection in it.
What is that vessel behind you, Alec?
That is Skydiver from UFO, the Jerry Anderson TV series from 1968-9. I forgot when it was released. But yeah, one of my favorites. What's that?
That's the year I was born, 68.
Well, yeah, I love that TV show, and it's ironic. I have 3 of my 3 favorite ship models because I don't yet have a large scale Ares, but my 3 favorite ship models are all submarines.
Really?
Skydiver, the Nautilus, which everyone saw in my old office, was on the credenza the break.
Oh, wait, let me guess. The third one is Sequest DSV.
No,
you don't like a Roy Scheider?
No, and then over here I've got the flying sub from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Very cool.
So those are my 3. So I'm thinking of putting the Nautilus up here, so I'll have flying sub, Skydiver, Nautilus. But if I do that, I don't have quite enough room. So I don't know what I'll do with my DS9 props. So
that's quite a divergence from your space-loving fare, all this nautical.
Yeah, well, first of all, and we don't have it here, but the Nautilus from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, from the Disney one from the 50s, is, as I've said many times, and fans probably are sick of hearing it, I think it is the single best designed science fiction vessel of all time in any media.
Really?
I don't think any, and I think it just goes, the fact that in every iteration of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea since then, no one's even come close. I mean,
and if it's the same one I'm thinking of, Alec, I'm envisioning something that's kind of postmodern futuristic, like an Art Deco kind of way, like in a Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers from the 40s.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of steampunk.
Yes, that's probably a better description.
I think when you think of that classic Nautilus, it's you think of, and here
I think of the ride at Disney World in Florida.
Yeah.
Those were some good practical effects. The way they had all the bubbles come up of the windows, giving you the illusion that you were having a greater submersion than you actually were.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was a brilliant ride. Um, and
That was an
yeah,
e-ticket ride for those of us old enough to remember tickets at Disney World.
now was it? Listen. I rode it at Disneyland. I
Uh-huh.
was it at Disney World?
It was because I was on it and I'd only ever been to Disney World. In fact, to this day, I've still never visited California. But
Oh
yeah,
my gosh!
I went on that ride in 1979 when my grandparents took me to Disney World when I was 10. Epcot wasn't even under construction the first time I went to Disney.
Wow. Well, here and yeah, there's the
There it
Nautilus
is.
in all
Mhm.
its glory, and it is just spectacular. I don't even think that this image does it justice. I just think that model. I mean, everyone who walks in this house
Do you know
when
what it
they see
looks
that
like,
model
Alec?
is like, holy
Do you know
crap!
what it looks like? It looks like a sawfish.
Yeah, it kind of does. It definitely right. It definitely has that look. It kind of looks like like a predatory fish. Yeah, I think.
Hmm.
I think that's right. So anyway, there you go. That there, and then up on my shelves you can see Dewey from Silent Running. Um, I've got a lightsaber. There's the phaser. There's a replica, and people know that I collected original Star Trek props. I rarely have a replica in my collection, but I have a replica um, of the phaser from Discovery, and
Really?
the only thing from Discovery that I liked because I really felt that phaser was an
It
homage to
it
Cage.
fit in well between the um in between, I think the phase, not the phase pistol from Enterprise. I'm thinking in between the hand laser from the Cage and the Type 2 phaser from TOS.
Yeah, and people don't realize the jump in production design from the two um, pilots for Star Trek,
Hmm.
and then when we moved to the first episode, when Hua Chang redesigned the phaser, the tricorder communicator,
Got
um,
rid of the gooseneck intercoms
got rid of that stuff.
on
Right?
the
It
bridge.
really Star Trek went from late '50s sci-fi to firmly '60s sci-fi. And
Absolutely.
60s sci-fi had a definitely different look than the 50s. There was a big sea change in production design for science fiction from the 50s to 60s, all symbolized best by that jump from hand laser clear communicator with transistors
Hmm.
to the Watchang designs that were used in Mantrap being the first aired episode. So,
Which was
but
actually the very first episode I ever watched with my dad when I was 4 years old.
was Mantrap,
Yep, it was in
which was of course the first
1972.
production episode that
And
was
I never
featured.
realized. The funny thing was, Alec, which is why when we talk about Axanar, I always want that scene where Kate Vernon's talking about, oh, they were beaming us up, and one of two things would happen: the transporters would blow out, or the Klingons would show up, start shooting. I always wanted to see that because I envisioned the flash pots like from the Doomsday Machine, and that's why I wanted to see that scene get filmed. But I remember the first time I'm watching Star Trek with my dad. We were at my aunt's house, and he's watching it, and I'm like, Dad, I don't want to watch this. Again, I'm 4 years old, never seen it before, don't want to watch it. 4-year-olds want cartoons. I want to see Batman or Underdog. And then I saw them beam up, and that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I was hooked from that moment on. So we've talked about some steampunk kind of nautical stuff, but let's talk about Star Trek, specifically Axanar. Now, you have recently completed a major film shoot where you filmed what, 7, 8 actors?
Yeah, 8 actors,
Wow.
which we had right eight. It was I think it was 7 or 8. I'm forgetting now, but yeah, because we had 10 in the can
Right.
out of 17, and uh, we reshot one actor. That was one of them. Um, and then and that was 7. So we shot 7 actors. Reshot one of was a reshoot. We now have 16 in the can, and we have one left to shoot, which we will shoot later on this year, probably. We're
Okay.
working on that shoot right now. But it was 3 days. It was, and we really did. We took a little different approach, and we just didn't tell anyone about this shoot. One, we didn't need to raise money for it, because now, as I've told everyone, we now have a couple benefactors who are paying for the entirety of Axanar until.
Did you have a really cool craft services table and catering the way you did for that one shoot we did back in 2019?
No, we didn't, and we talked about it, and it was we considered it.
That was a fun set to be on. I'll tell you that. Never having been on any film set before, real or fan film, and not that a fan film isn't real, because there's a lot of work that goes into it to make a real film production. But that was an amazing set to be on for my first time on a set.
Yeah, well, I rolled out the red carpet for the volunteers, right, for any donor to be there. We had almost 100 donors show up, which was really nice. And that honestly, that was the best part of the shoot. Was the food and the volunteers were the best part of the shoot. We unfortunately, and I've told the story. We had lots of problems with that shoot. Which is kind of water under the bridge. We're using almost nothing from that shoot. There's only 2 characters that we're bringing over. But that, you're right. I mean, the food, the crafts. Listen, I was on the set of Battlestar Galactica. I was working when I did the auctions for Battlestar Galactica. I was hired by NBC Universal, and my company PropWorks did the auction. So I got to be on set for 3 months.
That must have been a lot of fun.
Craft services. And let me tell you, their craft services were ridiculous. They were so good. They were ridiculous. What we had was not too far off. I mean, it was really, you're right.
The chef and the catering you had in there was second to none. That was
it was amazing. Yeah. Well, it was funny because we talked about it, and my film crew guys, I was like, well, what should we do? And they were like, we don't care. We just feed us something. Jimmy John's. I was like, Jimmy John's? Really? They're like, yeah, we love Jimmy John's. So a sandwich shop, right? And I was like, okay. So that's what we did. And we had, I think we had biscuits in the morning. Well, also the host hotel had breakfast. So we were all eating at the Hampton Inn and eating their breakfast, So we were all full when we got to set. We did sandwiches. The first 2 days we did sandwiches. And the third day, Jeff Fagan, our DP, was like, okay, no more Jimmy John's. I said, Chick-fil-A? They go, yeah, Chick-fil-A. Because it's funny how many people we had a bunch of people from out of state, and some didn't have Chick-fil-A in their hometown. So everyone wanted Chick-fil-A. But anyway, it was good. It wasn't anywhere near 2019.
We have Chick-fil-A here, so that would not have been a big get for me.
Yeah, everyone's got Chick-fil-A now, it seems. But so that was good. But it was so our 2 benefactors flew in, one from Japan.
Really?
Just for the shoot for 2 days. And he has a film production company in Japan. And he was there for 2 days, and he said, this is, your crew is as good as any crew I've ever worked with in Hollywood.
Well, that's high praise.
Wow. That I was like, really? He goes, oh yeah, you guys are pros. Everyone knows exactly what they're doing. Everyone's so nice. He said, no one's this nice in Hollywood. And then Dave, the other benefactor, came in at the end, and he was a hoot. He was great. Goodney, the first guy, is kind of eccentric, and in a good way. Like, he's got long hair. Like, he's, I don't know, he's 60. So he's got long hair, and dresses like nobody's business. He dresses like Versace. He's crazy. And so he's kind of eccentric in a good way, right? So he was fun to have on. And then Dave came on, and Dave, they're both like, fashion plates. Dave shows up, and Dave was awesome. Dave's a super sweet guy who basically was a donor for like 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
I was going to ask you, how did these guys get on board? How did they find Axanar, and then what made them say, "Hey, we really want more of this. We're going to back it for you"?
So Dave, I had emailed Dave, and Dave sent. So for the January shoot, when we shot in January, we shot for basically how many days did we shoot? 2 days, 3 days, I forget. But for that shoot, Dave donated $5,000.
Oh wow!
And afterwards he donated more. And so he and I started talking. We started talking about other things, not just Star Trek, right? We just hit it off big time. And he said, and the one conversation I had, we were talking. He said, "Well, how much is it going to take to finish?" And I kind of said, "Well, it's going to take this and this, and this is the shoot. This is what we have to shoot. This is post production. Blah blah blah." And he said, "Well, yeah." He said, "I've been doing my research on you, Alec." I said, "Okay." And he said,
"Is that a good thing or a bad thing?"
I said, "I hope it's a good thing." I mean, he said, and he had even seen the haters group and the Axanar haters group on Facebook, and he had even gone there, and like everyone who goes there, just ran away screaming like, "These people are insane." But he just looked at everything. The guy's smart. The guy's rich and successful, and he did his homework. And he said, you are either insane or you are the most persistent, stubborn person I've ever met. And he says, "I'm betting on the second." And he said, someone with that mentality, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, "Look, someone with that needs to succeed, and you're doing something we all love." He said, "I want to pay for the rest of this Axanar."
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'll interject a thought, my own personal thoughts on you, Alec, and you may want to cut this, you may like it, you may want to leave it in. But listen, it's no big surprise that there have been people in this world that you have pissed off. But you know what? You know who else pissed off a lot of people? Steve Jobs. And he went on to create some of the most beautiful and iconic things that other people have tried to copy and have failed miserably. I hate fan films, Alec. I can't stand them because it looks like a bunch of fat 40-year-olds playing pew, pew, pew with their buddies on the weekend in ill-fitting excuses for costumes. It's like, oh, let's just mix costumes from, I don't know, about 150 years of Star Trek because that's all we've got, and let's just call it a movie. And you've never done that. I mean, even when we're cutting from the vignette part where it's like an older Garth reflecting back, he's wearing a Cage era tunic versus what happened before, and then they've got different sets of uniforms. The production values of Axanar, I mean, listen, I don't care about the haters. I don't care about, listen, all the good work in the world is going to have some burned bridges behind it. And you know what? I say, look at the work you've done. It stands for itself. And between Prelude and, the acting you did in Interlude, I mean, if I get bored and I've got 10 minutes to kill, I will just go to YouTube and flip one of those on for some quick entertainment, even before I go to Paramount Plus and throw an episode of TOS or Next Gen on. So, like I said, I want more of what you've done, and I think a lot of other people too, and I think that's why you've got some benefactors, because your work speaks for itself.
Well, I'd like to think so, and as always,
and that's not just me blowing smoke. Listen, I don't work for you. You don't know me anything. I love Axanar, which is why I take the time to do these episodes with you.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. As I always say, Axanar is not Alec Peters, right? There is a magnificent group of people that make Axanar great, and we are quite fortunate that we have had now for 3 shoots. The 3 main film shoots together have been the same crew doing them. Ted Brunetti directing, Mark Edward Lewis as co-director, Jeff Fagan as DP, obviously myself producing, Crystal producing. We have the same gaffer, Jim Ross. They have the same volunteers coming. The same seamstresses. We for 3 shoots now, we've had consistency, and it's showing in the final product. So,
And you know what? The consistency lends itself to something that is critical in something that is fan loved like Star Trek, and that is continuity. And that's the one thing that modern day 21st century televised Trek has been lacking.
yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I said ad nauseum how much I don't like Discovery. I mean, on the whole, it's okay, but it's clearly it clearly messed with the timeline in ways that I just never really approved of. Although love Strange New Worlds, love Lower Decks.
Oh, really? Oh, I wouldn't give you I would not give you a wooden nickel for Strange New World. And listen,
Really?
Alec, I was one of the people who lobbied hard for a Pike-led show. I said, wow, Anson Mount's going to knock it out of the park. And it is so woke and so, I mean, the way his subordinates on the bridge talk to him like he's maybe their older brother or their buddy, not the captain of the Federation flagship. You know, nobody on the Kirk's bridge would talk to him that way. Nobody on Picard's bridge. Nobody on Janeway's bridge. So, no, I don't like the way these characters are written. I don't like the way they're being portrayed.
What about Lower Decks? Do you like Lower Decks?
Alec, Lower Decks is a love letter to diehard Star Trek fans. I mean, literally. I mean, with the exception of Terry Metalis' exquisite work in Picard season 3. I mean, I could take or leave the first 2 seasons of Picard, but I was happy to get them. But they didn't feel like any kind of next gen work. But season 3 of Picard is the only live action Trek currently recently in production worth its salt. Prodigy, forget the medium of animation, because a lot of people, I mean, who is it? What's the marketing guy from the 60s or 70s said the message is the medium, or the medium is the message. Was it Maslow? No, a different guy. Anyway, it'll come back to me. A lot of people dismiss shows like Lower Decks and Prodigy because they're animated. I will tell you, Alec, putting aside the animation, season 1, all 20 episodes of it, of Prodigy, is one of the best Star Trek stories ever told. I'll put it up there with Axanar and some of the best episodes of Next Gen and TOS. That having been said, Lower Decks is in the same vein as the Orville. When the Orville came out, it was Seth MacFarlane and his love of Star Trek mixed with his irreverent comedy like Family Guy. And so basically it was being billed as Star Trek with dick and fart jokes. And Lower Decks came out of the gate in the same style. But as it got its own footing over the next couple of seasons, it started finding its own stories and its own continuity. And I mean, right up there with the most, was it had a similar title to the Inner Light, the most recent episode as of this recording of Lower Decks.
Right.
Is it the Inner Fight? The Inner Fight. Thank you. The Inner Fight. Where there's some real character development there. And we find out that the reason Mariner is this crazy maverick is because she was good friends with Cito Jaxa from the Next Gen episode Lower Decks, and was upset with the way she died, and which she wanted to be an explorer, not a spy. And I'm like, wow, there is some good fill-in backstory. I mean, the fact that Prodigy is going to Netflix, it just thrills me no end.
Oh, me too. Yeah, no, because people, I've started Prodigy and I haven't finished it. But
you haven't?
Kind of like Lower Decks. I watched the first few episodes of Lower Decks and was like, and Lower Decks was exactly the same experience I had with Rocky Horror Picture Show 40 years ago. Literally the same. First time I saw Rocky Horror Picture Show, I was like, this is the stupidest shit in the world. Why am I watching this? And then I saw a midnight show at my university with the full production,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I laughed my ass off, and I was like, that is brilliant shit. And that was my experience with Lower Decks. I revisited Lower Decks a year later. I mean, I literally watched a few episodes and said, that's it. I'm done with this. It's like too loud and too frantic. It's like, that's not Star. I said, okay, everyone's saying how great it is. Season 2 had come out.
Yeah, the further you get, the deeper you get into the seasons of Lower Decks, the less it becomes like this parody, comedic love letter to the fans, and more its own thing.
You know, I have always maintained that the greatest mistake that Kurtzman made with Star Trek, besides the horrendous production design of everything Klingon in season 1 of Discovery, the other great mistake was trying to tell us that this was the prime timeline and not an alternate universe like JJ did in the movies. They tried to tell us it was prime timeline. And now Akiva Goldsman in an interview has come out and said, oh, we are rewriting it to change the timeline. Okay, so it is an alternate universe because you're telling us now that the timeline is in fact different. So it is in fact, whether or not you say it's an alternate timeline. Finally, the last I'll say is we do not want Starfleet Academy set in the Discovery universe. In fact, no one wants that Star Trek. Listen to the fans. Put Terry Matalas in charge of Star Trek Legacy. That is what everyone wants, not Discovery. I can count on one hand the number of fans of Discovery that I know. Everyone wants Star Trek Legacy, so just give us what we want, for Christ's sake. Anyway, back to Axanar.
Back to Axanar, yes. So,
speaking of things that Star Trek fans want,
I know, right? I'm right at the top of that list because I have been waiting. It's funny. I often suggested, since the lawsuit was settled, wouldn't it be great if you had all these independent filmmakers grab a piece of the original script, make their 20 minutes of Star Trek, and then some other person comes along and just strings them all together. And, well, now it's a movie, but a bunch of people made 20 minutes of Star Trek. Okay, they all fit together. Let's watch that now. I like that.
Well, we're not doing that. But I will say that I can honestly say that there are 3 different filmmakers making Axanar vignettes.
Will they be as good as the Vulcan Walk and Talk or Interlude?
I would say probably Interlude level.
Excellent.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I think Interlude is, with all due respect to Josh Irwin and Jonathan Lane, I think Interlude is a step below. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it is
sure, absolutely.
Vulcan scene, Prelude under that, and then Interlude under that. I think there's definitely a hierarchy. I mean, you could say Prelude and the Vulcan scene are both studio quality.
Interlude, absolutely.
A little less so, but still spectacular. But
I mean, Gary Graham's monologue in the Vulcan scene is just so epic. I mean, and the fact that as an actor, it really shows his skill because there is such continuity between his scenes in the Vulcan scene there with Talera and where the character evolved from on Star Trek Enterprise with Scott Bakula.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, purposefully, and it was a lot closer to that time as well, right? You know, we filmed Prelude in 2014, the Vulcan scene in 2015. So he was a dozen years separated from having played that role in Enterprise. So
and to step back into it so seamlessly, just as a testament to his work.
Yeah, no, he did great. And I was thrilled. It was wonderful working with Gary on that. And we do, once again, work with Gary. That's Ted Brunetti, our director, working with Gary on our shoot here this past month.
That's terrific.
And, and so we're obviously thrilled to have Gary back. And and basically, yeah, he had left the project, and then but he and I continue to be friends, and we continue to talk, and we're helping him with his music project. And I said, hey, come back and play Sobal again. And he said, okay. So there we go.
That's terrific.
I will share another image with you all. And sorry if you're listening to this on the podcast, you're going to have to go watch the video. But there is a scene. There's our Klingon, Kevin Porter playing a Klingon, which we're real excited about. And
does
then
the Klingon have a name?
I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
There's a lot. There's some stuff we don't
like surprises.
We're not going to share. This is Mark Edward Lewis, along with one of our camera operators, Brandon, who flew in from Utah. He's a good friend of Jeff Fagan's.
Mm-hmm.
That's his red camera there. So so we, it was a great shoot with a lot of hard work, but a lot of
tell us about a shooting day. What a shooting day looked like on this last shoot.
Well, most of the time, and that's Ted Brunetti, who's our director, who's just truly one of the great human beings that I know.
And he's an acting coach as well, correct?
That's his main gig is he is an acting coach.
And you studied under him, correct?
I did. Yeah, he was part of the when I started at Howard Fine, who's one of the top 3 acting coaches. As a matter of fact, Howard Fine is Chris Pine's acting coach. He's Bradley Cooper's acting coach. Howard's school. Ted was one of the teachers at Howard School, and after I finished the introductory class with Howard, I got assigned to Ted and Marilyn's class. So Ted was one. It was really working with Ted and working with Richard Hatch after I'd worked with Howard, where I really started to understand what acting was all about, and where I started to be able to do it. Not necessarily well, but so
I've said it before. Back when you were talking about having wanted to recast Garth, I really think you have undersold yourself, because I thought you did a great job in Prelude and an even better job in Interlude. So clearly, under their expert tutelage, your acting skills are evolving. So that's a good thing.
Well, thanks. And so it was amazing to work with Ted on this shoot, doing Garth, because Garth is, for me, I've been living with that character for so long. Mm-hmm. So there's a certain aspect that's easy to access, but this time we were dealing with a lot of different things, a lot of different feelings, and
Garth. Do you feel that Ted helped you get more in touch with Garth, or understand Garth better, or better yet, to be a vessel to channel the character in a way that you hadn't expected to? Like, were there any epiphanies for you there working with Ted, with this character?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, Ted and I talked about the script, and we talked about the character and such. And in this, in these next 2 episodes, we're talking about Garth, talking about the battle, right? Mm-hmm. And talking about losing people and the risk of losing people, and just there's so many emotions that are going through Garth. And so how do you access those emotions Garth in Prelude, Garth was pretty simple. There wasn't a big range that I was playing Garth. A lot of it was Garth in exposition, just telling what happened. There was, maybe one line where he's, where Garth was saying, they said she was tough. I wanted to see what she, could do. Right. That was like a little swagger. Right. This time Garth's dealing with there's a lot of shit. Right. We talk about Garth as a victim of post traumatic stress disorder. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, this is him recalling the things that he doesn't necessarily want to recall. Right. it gets back to the whole World War II veteran thing. Like World War II veterans didn't talk about World War II generally. Why not? And it's because of the post-traumatic stress.
Well, they didn't have PTSD following World War II. They had shell shock, which was
rather
nondescript,
right? So now you're trying to deal with a lot of that, and so it was good to have Ted bring me around, push me where I needed to be pushed, or ask me to give him something different.
Had you worked with Ted prior to Interlude?
Well, no, Ted didn't work on Interlude.
No, I'm saying, did he work with you? Because one of the things I noticed in the post-battle on Interlude was you really emoted through Garth, and you could tell much more so than in Prelude that this was a character who'd seen some stuff and lost some people. And I felt that you really, really exhibited that very well. And I could see this evolution of your playing the character. And I was just wondering where that influence came from.
That was really because of what the subject matter was, right? Garth's dealing with losing his friend, losing a comrade, losing a ship, right? So I had to do a certain amount of preparation about that. And then, so that all ties in to this shoot and working with Ted. And, and Garth had a lot. I mean, I had more lines than anyone. And that was like after we gave away a lot of lines. There were so many times I was like, give this line to him, give this line to her, give this line. Like, I don't need to say that line. Give me less stuff. We've got all these amazing actors. You got JG, you got so on and so forth. Give them the lines. Give me as little as possible.
Is Sam Travis back in this last shoot?
Well, no, because we shot him in November of 2021.
Okay.
He was one of the first. He was the first actor we shot.
Okay, good.
So again, 16 to 17 actors in the can, done.
Okay.
And the one final thing I'll say about working with Ted was the end of episode 5, after the battle, the aftermath of the battle. There's a line about Garth talks about meeting Karn at the peace conference, and there's an exchange there. I'm not gonna give it away, but there's an exchange, and Garth talks about Karn, and it's not just Garth talking about Karn; it's Alec talking about Richard, and and we all knew, and Ted knew that too,
right?
And which was good because it's a very important line, and to kind of wrap it up, because and having Ted there to help me with that, and to get me where I needed to go he was amazing. It was amazing. And it was like, after we wrapped, it was the last line. Okay. Last line, Garth's wrapped, done, and there were tears on the set, and it wasn't just me. It was Mark and I just shared a hug, because we were both really, really close with Richard, and I felt good that I got it out. I got out what I needed about Richard, and hopefully what appears on the screen resonates with everyone. Hopefully everyone feels that, I get it. It's Karn and it's Richard, and it's hopefully it resonates. But it was great stuff, and everyone loves Ted Brunetti. Everyone loves working with Ted Brunetti. He is just so damn good and such a great person that it was, it was just the highlight of our of the shoot.
We look forward to seeing his work.
Huh?
So we look forward to seeing his work. Can
Yeah,
you
no.
talk about the story elements of, without revealing too much? Can you talk about what we might see, tease a little bit in the
Yeah,
next two
I mean,
episodes?
the thing that I will tell you is that we're telling the Battle of Axanar,
Okay.
and we're telling it in a
Will
way
we
that,
see that?
yeah, as I've said before, the classic Hollywood trope is that in the 3-act structure that stories are supposed to be told in, it's in the first act you run a cat up the tree, in the second act you light the tree on fire, and in the third act you save the cat. And
Okay.
so Save the Cat is kind of like, it's actually the name of one of the top books on screenwriting in Hollywood is Save the Cat. Um,
Okay.
so if you think of that, then Prelude to Axanar is running the cat up the tree. The Gathering Storm is lighting the tree on fire. And the
And
last
is the
episode,
Gathering Storm episode 5?
4. Yeah,
4.
it's
Okay.
episode 4. Prelude's episode 3. Gathering Storm is episode 4. Crucible is episode 5.
Okay.
And so in Crucible, you save the cat, right? So
Okay.
that's it. All the action is set up for you in the first 2 episodes. So in episode 3, bam, it's the battle, and you're going to find out everything that you need to know in that battle. You're going to meet other captains, and you're going to meet great characters. And yeah, I mean, so we have set. So Mark Edward Lewis, who is both co-director and editor, and sound designer and post-production supervisor, kind of runs that process.
Wearing many hats.
He has set up. He has already created what we call assemblies, which is a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
He's dropped in everything that we had, which of course the green screen hasn't been compositive. There's no VFX for the most part. It's the actors, it's the story. And we did this months and months ago after the January shoot, and he and I would hone it and go, oh, that works, that doesn't work, or what. We added lines, we switched lines to people. We tried to make it so that this feels right. This feels like episode 4 has to feel at the end of episode 4, you got to go, wow, shit's about to hit the fan.
Mm-hmm.
And episode 5 is get out of the way of the fan, right?
Okay.
And so the new assemblies, there's still things we're tweaking. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. Or, oh, what if we do that? And it's looking good, man. We're excited. We're excited.
I'm excited for it myself. Let me ask you, in episode 4, are we going to see things like the Battle of the Gas Giant?
No.
Okay, so we're not going to see that. Ever since having seen the animatics for that, I always wanted to see that fully fleshed out.
Yes, but that is going to be someone else is producing that.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, someone else is
Will we see Commodore April in any meaningful fashion?
Yes, you will.
Will we see anything else that was teased, say, in Prelude?
Well, I mean, you're going to see all the characters you saw in Prelude.
I'm thinking more Starship-wise.
Yes, you are. You are.
Okay.
And the yes, it's. I can't even
for anybody who doesn't know. I don't want to spoil anything.
No, don't tell anyone. But I
mean, listen. There were things that were teased. There were things that were teased in Prelude that I'm like, oh, I really want to see that.
Yeah. No, it's going to be the most. Yeah, it's going to be. We've already planned out the VFX for the one scene, and it is spectacular. People are going to be losing their minds over that. So yeah, but there's a couple things that but we had to cut out stuff because we have to get down to 15 minutes, and so
is it 15 minutes? I thought it was 2 20-minute segments.
2 15-minute episodes. That's the
2:15. Okay, so Prelude was 20, and then we're gonna make 2 more 15-minute segments.
Exactly.
Okay.
So things like Battle of the Gas Giant, Icarus Maneuver, those things there's no room for them. right?
Mm-hmm.
That because they don't push the story forward. You have to really push the story forward, right? There's no time for any side quests here. you know,
Okay.
it's telling the story and telling it in 15 minutes, which is possible. I always love the people that say, "Oh, well, what are you going to tell in 15 minutes?" I don't know. What did we tell in 3 minutes with the Vulcan scene?
Mm-hmm.
Thought that was a good story. I did. That was 3 minutes.
And
So
what about Tanaka? Is Tanaka going to
yes,
be in the next 2 episodes?
yeah. As a matter, he's the one we reshot because when we gave Vince the role back in January, we didn't give him enough
Mm-hmm.
time to prepare, and so the performance wasn't what we wanted. So this time we told him what we wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and we got it. And so it's a lot better. His stuff is a lot better. So he just reshot everything. So yeah, so it's good. So we the goal right now is to release next summer, and we'll have a red carpet premiere in LA most likely, and all the donors will be invited to that, obviously for free. There's no cost, and then we hope to start showing it on the convention circuit and the film festival circuit.
Okay. And we are looking at a July 2024 premiere. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
That will be amazing, Alec. And so now that you've got most of the principal shooting completed, you still have one more shoot to do?
Yes, one shoot, and then principal photography will be wrapped,
Okay.
and we will be fully into post production. Right now, we're just in the planning stages of post production for the
When
most
do you
part.
expect principal photography to be completely done?
I don't know. It really depends on the actor schedule right now. So we're working on that, and we'll see. I would anticipate no later than the end of January because December, January are good times. Everyone's off in December and January.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we don't have to deal with the SAG strike because of our budget level.
Mm-hmm.
We're a small enough production that we SAG just waves you right in. If you're under a certain budget level, you fill out a certain form, which is online. It takes 10 minutes, and you're done. And then you
Okay.
submit your SAG paperwork once you're done with the shoot, and give them their 20% or whatever it is, and you're
Now, I thought the
and you're
writer's strike was over. So, I mean, is that still an issue?
the writer's strike was never an issue since none of us are WGA.
Okay.
And the SAG strike is not an issue because initially we thought it was an issue and we were going to apply for a waiver. And then our SAG rep said, no, too small. You don't even have to worry about a waiver. She said, if you're under this budget level, just fill out this form. And we just redid it online. She said, go through that. Call me if you have any problems. And boom, 10 minutes later, we were done.
That works.
So,
all right.
yeah.
Well, Alec, this is some very exciting news. And I know a lot of Axanar fans and a lot of Star Trek fans are eagerly anticipating the fact that wrapping up Axanar will happen in just about under 7-8 months from this recording.
I know it's getting close.
I'm excited. You must be super excited. All right. Well, Alec, tell everyone where they can find out more about you and about Axanar and how to get involved and how to stay in touch.
Alec at Axanar.com is my email address. I'm on Facebook. So you could just find me on Facebook, send me a message, chat me up if you want. I'm Alec Peters on Twitter. Now, whatever it's called now. X or whatever it is. Jeez Louise. But yeah, I think I'm Alec Peters on Threads too, but I don't use that yet. So get me to use that.
Okay.
So yeah, but I'm online. You can find me and talk me up. I'm always happy to talk with fans. And yeah, I will say at Dragon Con, some lovely gentleman came up to me and I was asking a question. So there was a panelist there, and I was respectfully disagreeing with them. And and this guy comes up and he goes, "Oh my God, you're Alec Peters." He goes, "I love Prelude to Axanar. Can you autograph?" And he gave me something piece of paper. I don't even know what it was. And I said, "Tell you what, just give me your email. I'll send you a signed photo. I don't want to just sign some crappy piece of paper. I want to give you it's on me. I'll send you a photo. Just give me your email." So it's sitting right there, and I finally dug out the photos, and I pulled one out for him, and I'm gonna sign it and send it off to him. And I love doing that because they honor me by asking for my autograph. It's not.
Are you going to sign it? The tip of the spear must be sharp.
Yep, always. It's such an honor for someone to ask me for my autograph, and so I always want to go above and beyond that. Oh, and by the way, I do want to plug this. Did you ever see this? Making fake Star Trek? Andy Bray and John Lim. These were two guys who played Chekhov.
John Lim played Sulu, right?
Yeah, on Star Trek New Voyages.
Yes.
And I got a copy of this book, which I have not read. I've skimmed it, but I've not read it yet. It's amazing. They basically chronicle the early days of Star Trek New Voyages.
Which one was the one where Chris Doohan plays Scotty?
That's Star Trek Continues. That's the other one.
Okay.
That's the other. I'll also mention, being that we're film buffs, two other books. The Making of the Magnificent Seven. You can get this on Amazon. One of the greatest Westerns of all time, along with the greatest Western of all time, Tombstone. The Making of Tombstone, which is a fascinating story because they fired the director, who was the writer, after 2 weeks. And Kurt Russell basically directed it with the new director. Anyway, it's a fascinating story about Tombstone is the greatest Western of all time in my book.
Well, check that out. Oh, it's funny you said, because just to tie into that a little bit, and I wanted to say it to you earlier, have you seen the Star Trek Continues vignette with Chris Doohan, where they get a new shipment of phasers which are slotted in between, like it's the next iteration of the TOS?
That's Scott Nakata's phaser. Yeah.
Yes. Whose phaser?
Scott Nakata, who's a prop maker up in the Pacific Northwest. Super nice guy. He had designed that for before Star Trek Continues. He had designed that, and it was always a great looking phaser. And Vic from Star Trek Continues saw it and said, "I need to bring that into Star Trek Continues," and he did. So, that vignette. And not only does Chris Doohan channel his father, but those phasers are beautiful. And if you look at the phaser that Uhura has in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock, this slots in between there perfectly, and it's that level of continuity that true Star Trek fans, imbue into Trek lore. Yeah, Chris Doohan did a magnificent job, and I last saw him at Salt Lake City Comic-Con in 2015. I saw 8 years. It was a long time ago, but he was a fan of Axanar, and I was a fan of his, and so we got to share a moment together. He's a super, super nice guy.
You've been listening to Official Axanar Podcast number 70. We'll catch you next time.
Live long and prosper.